Good evening, everybody. Welcome into another YouTube live show tonight. I am John Kurtz, and as you can see by the good old graphic tonight, we are going to be talking about the CW. Yes, the same place for Gilmore Girls, I believe Gossip Girls. Somebody tells me in the chat that there is a show called All American on the CW as well. I was unaware of any of this until the CW came into my worldview thanks to the Pac-12 TV deal. Yeah, there is a lot, a lot going on today to catch up on because as soon as it was one of those things like I did the live show Wednesday and it was fairly newsy but not totally, and then after that we get the story from the Athletic about the CW being a legitimate possibility. We get the story in the Athletic about the timing that we're weeks or months away from a Pac-12 TV deal. Heartland College Sports, shout out to Derek Duke, did a great job of compiling a bunch of receipts from Pac-12 country and all these Pac-12 guys on the timeline of this thing. So we're going to go through receipts. This might be the ultimate receipts episode that we've ever had here. It's going to be a fun one here tonight. And as I said on Twitter, the deal with the CW, it's not quite as bad as it sounds, especially considering the options that the Pac-12 has right now, like actually being on an over-the-air TV network as opposed to 75% streaming or something like that. You would rather have that, but it is a hilarious headline, man. And you combine the CW thing with the fact that this deal is getting pushed back now to weeks or months away, and more bad headlines for the Pac-12. It has been a masterclass in bad PR for this league the entire way through. It seems like this whole tour de force by the presidents of Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah is now backfiring on the league. Certainly Arizona and Arizona State, the Utah president, maybe a little bit different in that regard. But it is backfired now because they came out all brazen and brash with confidence and got the Canzanos of the world to really gas that up. Spidey sense is tingling. Here comes a deal. No, here does not come a deal. So we'll get you all the reaction to that. I kind of can't believe where I'm at in this space right now, where I'm coming on and talking to you about the network that houses Gossip Girls. But that's where we are. That is where we are. Conference realignment. If there is any further proof necessary of how wild conference realignment is, I think the Gossip Girls graphic probably speaks for it all. That probably takes the cake on everything, right? And I appreciate those of you. I saw somebody earlier saying that they appreciated the Gossip Girls graphic. I'm glad that you did. I'm glad that you did, because that was intentional. It's not even a good looking graphic at all. Like, I'm sure a graphic designer would take a look at it and be like, what the hell are you actually doing there? But it was like the only way that I could figure out how to work in like a legitimate CW graphic. I spent too much time trying to figure out an actual picture that would work. Usually those graphics take me like 2 seconds. This one, I spent a good solid like 20 minutes trying to find a graphic of the CW or like Gilmore Girls, Gossip Girls. I don't even, I looked through the list of shows that are on there and I was trying to find what would be the funniest one to place there and one that would like work with the text. And it was very difficult. So I was out there grinding today, you guys, on a holiday. I was out there grinding to find you the CW graphic to go with the Pac-12. So I hope George appreciates me for that. That was for you, George, and that was for our overlord, Karen. All hail, Karen from Endeavor. All hail, overlord Karen. That's really the table setter that I have for you guys today. I mean, I think that's pretty much what we got. Let me see. I mean, we have a mailbag from John Wilner, who has been and continues to be much more measured about everything than Canzano has, which I do appreciate. But even I hate to do it, but I've even got a receipt to pull on John Wilner in this one, because we all remember he's been rolling with the line, right? The 5.5 point line. It started it's 6.5 or 5.5. I want to say 5.5. The Pac-12 extinction line started as 5.5. It was a 5.5 point favorite to survive. Then it would drop a half point for every 2 weeks. And it was going to be like, if March comes and goes, then they're in real trouble. But yet he's backtracked a little bit on that. So lots of things happening in Pac-12 country, mostly with a little bit of egg on some faces out there based on what is happening here right now. You guys know the drill. If you've been here before, you can control the content tonight. You can make your voice heard. In order to do so, Click that $ below the chat box where it says say something. That is how you make your voice heard. Your question or comment will get pinned up at the top for me. Sticks above everybody else in the chat, which we have over 130 people in here right now. I will not be able to see everything that's happening in the chat. If you want to make sure your voice is heard, click the $ below the chat box to make a donation and get your chat in that way. It is also, of course, a way to support the work I'm doing, bringing you Big 12 content on a week in, week out basis. Could not do it without you guys and all of your support. I sincerely do appreciate all of you who do that. And of course, one free way you can support the channel is just to give the video a like. Does not cost you a dime, just one click. Click that like button, and that helps me out as well. Leave a comment underneath the video. That will help me also, especially if you're catching this after the fact. Any engagement really helps me with the YouTube algorithm and is totally free of cost to you guys. If you are not watching this live and you still want to support the channel, it is John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo in order to do so. So I would appreciate all of that support as well. I think that is all we got, baby. I think that is all we got. And I see, speaking of receipts, being in the receipt game, R-Web, my guy R-Web is pretty good at that. He's pretty good about sending me the receipts, keeping track of those, and he is hopping in here tonight. R-Web, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your donation. R-Web says, tonight on Smallville, Georgie faces his kryptonite. Don't miss Pac-12 CW after dark. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Georgie faces his kryptonite. That's why, I was like, can he get a guest spot on Gilmore Girls or Gossip Girls? I don't even, guys, what was was it Gilmore Girls or Gossip Girls? Or are they both on there? I don't even know. But if we can't get Kliavkoff like a guest spot on one of these shows, what are we even doing? Having the Pac-12 on the CW. I think that definitely needs to happen. And I mean, hey, there's been enough drama throughout this. Like, conference realignment does not lack for drama. There's been enough drama throughout this that surely there's a good storyline there somewhere. I think with the CW's general target demo and all that, we probably have to work in like a love story angle here at some point. So I don't know how we're going to make that work with Kliavkoff. But if anybody has ideas, let me know in the chat. If you've got ideas for the story arc for George Kliavkoff in the latest Gossip Girls episode, that would be great if you could help out. I guess we're going to go Gilmore Girls. I'm looking at my graphic now. Okay, Gilmore Girls. We'll say, give me the pitch for what the George Kliavkoff storyline is on the next Gilmore Girls. And that's just make me laugh. Make me laugh with that, please. Let's get the chat on that. I would love for you guys to be all over that and on top of that tonight. I see someone asking, what is the CW? I mean, it's a great question. It is a TV channel. That's about all I got. I believe it's owned by Nexstar Media now. It recently got bought. Live Golf, the Live Golf Tour is on the CW, which I had no idea till all of this happened. Jim Nantz actually made a little crack at the CW on the Masters broadcast this weekend, which, of course, that being because of the involvement with the Live Golf Tour. But he said somebody was walking to the CW and then said afterwards, like, the crosswalk, of course. So even Jim Nantz was getting in on some CW jokes. R-Web chiming in again, and I appreciate you as always, R-Web. R-Web says, layups and dominoes, baby. Yeah, we heard from John Canzano, those Pac-12 sources continue to say it'll be a layup that they beat the Big 12 deal. And even in not the latest Canzano piece, I think it was the next to latest Canzano piece, there was still confidence coming from those Pac-12 sources that they're going to beat the Big 12's number. We'll see. We'll see. The Athletic article, I would not say is very optimistic about that, with some information from ESPN that I'm going to get to here in just a moment. G. Thomas Holland. What's up, G. Thomas Holland? Appreciate you being here, my friend. Thank you for your support of the channel. G. Thomas Holland says, reports show that Oregon was an option for the Big Ten before, and they said no to instead take UCLA. I don't see how Oregon gets into the Big Ten, even with a new commish. All realignment mute then. Well, you'll have to tell me where you saw that. I have not seen that. Someone made a great point. I don't remember who it was. I was talking about it in one of the recent lives where they said, and actually I think it was maybe a Wilner mailbag question answer, but it was basically like, how is Oregon going to feel taking a reduced revenue share if they were to take a reduced revenue share in the Big Ten, if UCLA is already there getting a full share because of how this worked out? And that is it's a compelling enough point. I don't think that would stop Oregon from taking the life raft to the Big Ten, but I'm sure they would be looking around like, what is this? Why does UCLA get this? I think the main idea was just a legit travel partner for USC, but also they just wanted to control the LA market. Like, I think Fox just really lusted over the LA market. I think that was the deal between UCLA and Oregon there, that they wanted complete control of that. That's what mattered most to Fox. So whether or not that's the better decision long term, that's up for debate. But I think that is really the long and short of what happened there. I don't see how Oregon gets into the Big Ten even with a new commish. Well, maybe not right away, but I think as this continues to grow and evolve, it very well still could happen. I'm with you that I don't think it's going to happen right away with a new commissioner. I think a new commissioner, whoever the Big Ten hires, is likely not going to be this just conquer everything attitude guy like Kevin Warren was, guy or gal, whoever it is that they hire. I think the attitude will probably be different because they seem to be at odds with that style from Kevin Warren. So yeah, I don't think it happens immediately, but I don't think you can cross that off long term because the way all of this appears to be going. Is all realignment mute then? No, I think it still hinges, even if we're going to take Oregon, Washington out of the equation and say that's not going to happen, them to the Big Ten, still going to hinge on what happens with this TV deal. The Pac-12 and George Kliavkoff are still going to have to deliver something substantial enough to keep the Arizona and Colorados of the world from deciding to migrate over to the Big 12. So that's still an angle. And then if we're talking about realignment, especially here on this channel, being a Big 12 centric channel, we've also got to be thinking about the basketball thing. I will continue to preach that. I think that is a real legitimate thing that Brett Yormark is working on, and the realignment could be on the basketball front, which would be adding those, Gonzaga, UConn, St. John's, Creighton, Villanova, like pool of those schools to create a monster basketball conference and then take those rights by themselves and try to make some extra money off of that. So no, I don't think it means all realignment is mute, even if that doesn't happen. And I think it's still something to monitor what's going on with Oregon, Washington, and the Big Ten. Our web has pitched a storyline here. Our web says Georgie Luss, Big 12 Karen, next on Gilmore Girls. That's pretty good. It could be the love triangle between George Kliavkoff and Karen from Endeavor, and I don't know, who do we want to set up competing? Canzano? Does Canzano want to be on there too? They could both be chasing the prize there. We could really get off the rails with that. But I'm here for any and all storyline pitches that you have for George Kliavkoff on the CW here tonight. Zesty's Retro and Games. Do you see any chance Wichita State to the Big 12? First of all, appreciate your support. Appreciate the contribution. I don't. Wichita State probably is 7 or 8 years too late on this whole thing if they wanted to be a part of the basketball only thing. They were at their peak when Greg Marshall was still there, and I guess it kept his crazy under control enough to still have a job. That is not the case, however, anymore. And let's just go look. Wichita State has not been Wichita State basketball year by year. Wichita State has made one tournament in the last 5. With COVID, one tournament in the last 5 tourneys, one of the last 5, and they lost in the first 4. They were an 11 seed to play in game and lost. Actually, kind of forgotten about that. So they're not in position right now. They are not in position there. So I do not see that happening. Okay. As we roll throughout the show here, remember, click that $sign below the chat box where it says say something if you want to get your question or comment on the chat here tonight. Help control the content, make your voice heard, and support the work I'm doing to bring you Big 12 content on a weekly basis. I will continue to monitor those as the show goes on. But here is the report from The Athletic, which was, I'll say bombshell. Bombshell is probably a little bit too strong, but this was, to me, the most newsworthy event that we've had in a while. It was backing up a lot of what the reporting that we had seen before was, what some of the rumors were, that this deal likely was going to take longer to actually produce here. And a part of the reason that The Athletic is important to me is because, look, we have Canzano, we have Wilner, we have Dennis Dodd, And then in between here is the Athletic, and it's because you have Max Olson reporting on the story, who is a Big 12 centric guy. But then you also have Stuart Mandel, who we've discussed many a time, many a time. There are plenty of receipts out there on Mandel as a guy who was predicting the Big 12's downfall. He is definitely Pac-12 leaning here, being a guy that's based on the West Coast that has been well documented. And when he's putting his name on a story here, this is the second time it's happened, putting his name on a story that's echoing a lot of the same sentiments we've seen from other places and more Big 12 centric sources. That to me is very important. You need to pay attention to that. Like, would he be putting his name on a story here that seems to be not very favorable to the Pac-12? If it were really false, like Mandel's not, he's been a guy that has been more leaning toward the Pac-12 and is a part of this story. So keep that in mind as I read this. But it says on Thursday, a person with knowledge of the Pac-12 media rights discussions told The Athletic a deal for 24-25 and beyond likely won't be announced until late spring, early summer. All right, so we are in April. It is April 9th. Late spring, early summer. Less than a month ago, Arizona President Robert Robbins told The Athletic he believed the conference would have a deal within the next couple of weeks. And the same week, Arizona State President Michael Crow told the state press, "I think we're close to a deal." The person with knowledge of the discussions now says those comments were overly optimistic. Shocking. And the part that's so funny about this is that the way it was framed, particularly by like the Canzanos of the world, was, hey, the Pac-12 is fighting back. And there was this thought that they must be pretty close and they must feel really good about this if they're going to go speak publicly and really punch back. And that it was the perfect encapsulation of the environment that we're in 2023, where those stories and those quotes got run about the Arizona comments and the Arizona State comments. And the Big 12 thought, well, hey, Arizona's openly admitting here they have some affinities for the Big 12 and there's a decision to make. Meanwhile, the Pac-12 said, no, look, they said they have confidence. They think it's going to get done. They're dunking on you. Everybody thought they were able to dunk on the other party with those comments. And really now, it was positioned as like this coordinated attack, this coordinated punch back, because you need to combat the narratives and everything is actually in a good place. And now we've got the Arizona president flying to Kazakhstan, nothing getting done. And now everybody's saying that it's going to be weeks or months before this thing actually does get done. It was not anything organized or coordinated or what it's been the same thing from the Pac-12. Disorganized, dissenting, like lots of voices all over the place in different, you don't know what the hell's going on because nobody is really on the same page and they're all talking different things. Even when those presidents spoke, like the Utah president was a little bit different with his message than the Arizona or the Arizona State presidents. You've got people like, it'll go on to point on later on in the article, Kirk Schultz from Washington State has been a little bit more along the lines of like, yeah, confident we're going to get this done pretty quickly. And Utah has been more measured. Like you have people all over the board. And some of this, I guess, if you just want to say, hey, George Kliavkoff is sticking to his guns of being very secretive about the entire process. I mean, like, okay, but it is doing some major damage to the reputation of the league. And you are definitely taking some risks here. And I also just have a hard time believing that it's some brilliant PR move and brilliant PR strategy from Kliavkoff when he very publicly was spotted at an SMU basketball game. So if this whole thing is, if his whole deal is secrecy, why are you going in public to an SMU basketball game where you know that you're going to be spotted? And he was. And that obviously really blew the lid off of speculation about SMU and San Diego State to the Pac-12. So when we've seen throughout the reports being that Kliavkoff like overpromised, certainly thought that his league was going to be worth more than it actually is on the open market with TV. He did not nail the secrecy thing with the Arizona piece of it. He has publicly said he thought that his league was going to catch up with the SEC and Big Ten financially eventually. I'm just, if it quacks like a duck, it walks like a duck. I mean, what am I supposed to think here? I have been given no reason to think that George Kliavkoff is some kind of PR mastermind here or master deal maker. I mean, every step along the way, it has been stuff that would lead you to believe otherwise, and that this all really is just kind of a disorganized mess, which that is certainly how it comes across to me. And I think this latest chapter is certainly affirming of that. Here's more from the article. It says, the delay may be in part because of the emergence of a new potential partner. And here we go. Two sources indicated that there have been recent discussions between the Pac 12 and the CW, a national over the air broadcast network better known for scripted shows like Gossip Girl, Supernatural, and Riverdale. Who could forget Riverdale? So there's your answer. Those who are asking about the CW. It's a national over the air broadcast network better known for scripted shows like Gossip Girl, Supernatural, and Riverdale. Since purchasing the CW network last year, parent company Nexstar Media Group has expressed interest in procuring live sports rights, announcing in January a deal with Live Golf. So a change of pace apparently coming for the CW here, where they're trying to work some sports in. But I don't know that you want to really be one of the guinea pigs if you're the Pac-12, along with Live Golf for that. But if it is that versus 60 to 70% of your inventory being on streaming, then yes, I would definitely support that decision from a Pac-12 standpoint. So that's really where we're at, and I want to continue to. I try to be as fair as I can, and like, look, I mean, the CW is in a lot of homes. I meant to go look that up for you. And that's on me that I don't have the specific numbers of how many homes they're in across America. I know someone pointed out the financials not being great necessarily with Nexstar and the CW and where that is going. But it is better to, like, the CW would be easier for bar owners to put on than Amazon Prime, or Apple TV. Like, it is easier for them to do that and just be able to continue using their satellite package, just flip to the CW to get the casuals in. Somebody is not going to have to go change apps to pull up Apple TV or whatever and leave YouTube TV, for instance, if they're watching at home to do this. Like, there are certainly advantages to that. But you can't deny that the headline is bad. You can't deny that you're going to get a bunch of jokes pulled on you for this getting out there, just the same as like Ion TV when it was floated out there by Brett McMurphy. But this one is funnier. It's just funnier. I mean, when the inventory that you're showing is Gilmore Girls, Gossip Girls, Riverdale, Supernatural, like, people are going to make fun of the idea that the lead into Oregon State Cal football is going to be Riverdale. Yeah, yes, that is going to get made fun of. And it is objectively, I'm sorry, you can be a Pac-12 fan. It is an objectively hilarious headline. That is a very funny headline. That is, I don't make the rules here, people. That is objective. That is a fact. Nothing you can do is going to change that. That is a very funny statement and a very funny thing to be looking at here in 2023. So this is the problem that the Pac-12 has. Their reputation is taking major hits, and they may very well survive this whole thing and continue on as a league. They're going to have a long ways to go in terms of public perception. This league was already struggling. Larry Scott definitely sent them on a bad path, but they just have struggled competitively to compete at the highest level, be in national championship games, be in the playoff. Those are well documented, the struggles that they've had there, not in it since 2016. When you combine that with the bad press, to how many news cycles they continue to lose, that chips away at that reputation. That does some real damage. So anyway, they are going to be in a little bit of trouble. There are a ton of other bullet points here from the Athletic article. This is one that just kind of confirms again what has been said before. But once again, I will emphasize this. This is a story that has Stuart Mandel's name on it, along with Max Olson. Says the protracted process indicates Kliavkov is not overly concerned about any of the four corner schools, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, defecting just yet. However, this is the important part. However, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark has recently met with multiple presidents of Pac-12 schools looking to explore their options. A person briefed on the meeting said. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark has recently met with multiple presidents of Pac-12 schools looking to explore their options. A person briefed on the meeting said. This is West Coast-based Stuart Mandel. This is the guy that wrote the story about the Big 12's TV ratings being worse than the AAC and suggested at one point the American and the Big 12 just merge. This is not a guy who's been rah-rah Big 12. And he is saying multiple sources have indicated that Brett Yormark has met again with Pac-12 presidents here. Now, Jason Scheer, who again is with one of the Arizona fan sites, he has put out there that Brett Yormark met for hours with Colorado leadership recently. So there is a lot of smoke surrounding that. And I think if you just use logic, right? Use logic. All these schools that are in this position, Arizona has publicly said they have a decision to make once they can see whatever the Pac-12 TV deal is going to be. Of course, they're going to have to cover their bases. It is just smart business for them to be at least aware of what's going on in the Big 12 and have those conversations. It doesn't seem to me like that's really a stretch to believe, even if you think the Pac-12 is going to survive and be fine. And yet, we continue. If you read Canzano, that is all 12 and on, Chicken Little, whatever. None of that is realistic. Like, this is Stuart Mandel. This is one of your allies. His name's on this story that's now saying this has happened. And this is not the first time. This is the second athletic story in about the span of 2 months that has said that Brett Yormark is meeting with Pac-12 presidents. So, I mean, look, you can believe what you want to believe, I suppose, but I'm inclined to not just buy into the Pac-12 state media here. And if you're not with me yet on this part, boy, howdy, just wait until we get to some more of the receipts later on here in the chat. But that was a very important bullet point. There are a couple others that I'm going to get to in just a second. But first, I'm going to roll through some donations because I see you guys have been lighting it up, and I appreciate that. If you want to be on the chat tonight, you want to make your voice heard and support the channel at the same time, support what I'm doing to bring you Big 12 content, click the $ below the chat box where it says say something, and that is how you can make sure your question or comment gets in on the chat tonight. Jay Rodriguez says, Karen told me to send this super chat. Go Cougs. Hey, shout out to you, Jay Rodriguez. Shout out to Karen for continuing to pump up that paycheck. All hail, Overlord Karen. All hail. Thank you, sir. Rick Jr. Just lost you, Rick. 1 second. There we go. Rick Jr. Appreciate you, Rick. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support of the channel. Rick says, thoughts on Houston getting RJ Cryer over K-State. Seems as though Houston is going to be able to recruit and pull big-time players, even more so now that they're in the Big 12. No wonder Texas never wanted to let them in. Yeah, I mean, I was LJ Cryer. I'm sorry. I was disappointed that K-State did not land LJ Cryer. Really what I was disappointed in is that K-State didn't get the visit. He was talking about visiting K-State. I know Kansas was kind of on the periphery of that discussion too. But everything I had heard was after the season that Houston was the likely destination here for Cryer. So I was not surprised at all. Houston got the first visit. They get to commit. I mean, as far as Houston being able to pull kids, like, yeah, I mean, Houston's sexy. I know it was a fairly disappointing NCAA tournament for them, but that's a pretty sexy spot right now. They've been really good. They're going into a bigger conference. I guess the only thing I would say is if you really buy into the Bob Huggins theory, remember what he said about Houston and the other newcomers, that they just have no idea what they're getting into. I think there is some truth to that. And I think it will be, rude awakening is probably too strong. Houston's got a ton of talent. They're obviously going to continue having talent with guys like Cryer. But if you want to say, hey, they'll fall back and be, more, maybe even like upper half of the Big 12 team, but not stand out quite as much because they're not just dominating the AAC. I mean, I would start to listen to that, but if you're an upper half Big 12 team, you're still going to be able to pull some really good talent. Like, yeah, I think Houston is definitely going to be a factor. And that just showcases where they're at right now. Being able to pull a guy like that, scored 15 a game at Baylor, and has been around for a while, played on the national championship team. Like that, it's a hell of a pull. It is. So not surprising at all. Like people in the know, I had heard a lot of people say once he entered the portal that Houston was going to be the destination. So would have loved for K-State to at least get a crack. I feel great about them. If they can get a guy on campus and get them in person, felt great about what you could do to potentially sell a guy. But that seemed like something that had been fairly premeditated. Now, if you want to have a conversation about tampering and all that stuff, I'm not accusing Houston of anything. And even if I were, it seems like everybody is doing it. There is that. Like, guys will enter the portal, and there's already like people saying, hey, this has kind of been in the works for a while. That sort of seemed like Cryer had it set in his mind that was where he wanted to go. Jesse, what's up, Jesse? Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your support, my friend. Jesse Meyer. Jesse says, what if the real Pac-12 media deal was the friends we made along the way? Hey, Jesse, you must have been listening to me earlier saying to make me laugh. Of course, I was asking for storylines of what we could have George Kliavkoff doing for his story arc on Gilmore Girls. But that also makes me laugh. Like, anytime I see that, that's definitely going to put a smile on my face. Whoever it was that said that initially, God bless you, because that was funny as hell. What if the real Pac-12 media deal was the friends we made along the way? And today, Jesse, is really the perfect time to drop that comment because of the theme of today's show, which is that we're weeks or months away from this thing actually being legit and done. So the further it goes, the further that is much more in line with what is going on here. We have to just say, hey, maybe this thing wasn't real the whole time, and all it was just the friends we made along the way. Or in the case of Utah fans, the enemies we made along the way. You guys would not believe, there are a couple of Utah fans that just like anything I tweet that is conference realignment related, they're right there in the mentions every time. I'll go look at the replies, and it's just, you have muted this account. You have muted this account. You pull it up, and it's Utah fans, man. They're a little seemingly obsessed here at this point. Our Web, what's up, Our Web? Our Web says, ironically, Ion has more eyeballs than CW. Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. So maybe Ion was the better deal. I mean, in hindsight, if we're just talking about headlines and we're just talking about how people will react to this, I would actually submit to you that the CW is the worst of the two headlines. Now, the problem for the Pac-12 is that they've been drugged through the news cycle with both of those channels. The CW, I think, is people are a little more aware of it, and that actually works against you here because they're aware of what it is, and they're aware that it shows like these scripted drama shows, like the furthest thing from athletics that you could possibly think of. And so I think that really works against you. Ion, I mean, I didn't know it existed before that Brett McMurphy drop. Had no idea what it was. So I'm just like a little more in the dark about what it actually is. The fact that I knew what the CW was, that makes it funnier, and that drives the negative storyline home a little bit more here. Just you're going to take more Twitter jokes at your expense, I think, over the CW than you are Ion TV. Maybe that one would be debatable. I would understand if you wanted to debate that one with me, but my initial take is that the CW is the tougher headline to absorb from a PR standpoint. A little bit tougher. Rob, what's up, Rob? Rob S. Appreciate your support as always, my friend. Thank you for being here. Rob says CW doesn't even pay for Live. They get it free plus a split of advertising. They do none of the production. Watch the Pac get stuck with the production cost. Yeah, well, that has been something that's been discussed here for a while. Going back, I'm trying to remember what partner it was that was. I think maybe that was like with the Amazon discussions or the Apple discussions, that they might leave the production to the Pac-12 itself, which would cost every school seven figures to do, and that actually would be taking money away from the back end of the deal. So you might see that kind of hidden in the fine print, right? Like when the deal actually comes out, it would be, hey, it's going to be X number of dollars to try and get as close to that 31.6 that the Big 12 is getting, or more than the 31.6 that the Big 12 is getting. But really, it would be significantly less because of costs that are coming on the back end here. But it's all in how you frame it and PR, and I understand all of that. But be watching for that. Like that will be, if this thing ever does get announced, that will be one of the first things I'm really paying attention to. Okay, devil's in the details. Here's what you guys are announcing. What are the actual financial details of this? Because if there is a significant seven-figure cost associated with production, like you're mentioning there, then that is a significant, I mean, that's basically taking money off of the deal. So lots of considerations here and lots of different ways that this could actually be framed when it comes public. Rise and shout. Boy, I like this question. Rise and shout. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Asks, can you explain why K-State was left out of BCS from 98 to 2002? Well, great question. K-State won 11 games, 6 of 7 years from 1997 to 2003. They made the Fiesta Bowl in 1997, the last year that it was considered an Alliance Bowl, when we had the Alliance Bowls instead of the BCS. So it was a BCS Bowl, but it was the precursor to the BCS. So they did technically make one there. 1998, K-State finishes third in the BCS standings after losing in multiple overtimes to Texas A&M in the Big 12 championship game that blew their shot at a national title. There was no rule that you had to be taken by then. The story with that always was that, I mean, basically everybody kind of had their pairings figured out, thinking that K-State would win and be in, and they kind of just got left out in the shuffle because of that. I know that they dropped to the Alamo Bowl because the Cotton Bowl had already lined up Texas, thinking there's no way K-State would fall there. And obviously they wanted Texas there. The one that really makes me mad, like 2000, I mean, they had lost 3 games. They lost the Big 12 championship game to Oklahoma. They lost a regular season game to Oklahoma. They lost at A&M. 2002 is one that makes me mad. They had a 2-loss regular season, but they were very close losses to good teams. And in 2002, there was a big push for K-State to get to the Orange Bowl. They did not. They'd beaten Carson Palmer and USC that year. Palmer won the Heisman. Like that was a year you couldn't even use the, hey, K-State played a crappy non-conference schedule against them. I think they definitely got gypped in 98 and 02. And after 98, K-State fans refer to this. It was the K-State rule that they put into effect where literally if you were in I think it was the top 4 of the BCS standings, you had to go to a BCS bowl. That was enacted because K-State in 1998, finishing 3rd in the BCS, got left out of a BCS bowl. So yeah, that was brutal. That was brutal. But happy to explain as much as I can on that front. Alan, what's up, Alan? Appreciate you. Thank you for being here, Alan. Always really appreciate your support. Great to hear from you once again, my friend. Alan says, John, great show. My first since the KU lost to Arkansas. Still hurts. Respect to KSU and Jerome Tang. Funny how Utah and others in the Pac-12 borrow unearned academic reputation from Stanford and Cal and then look down on the Big 12. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, Alan. Yes, well, Alan, tournament losses hurt like hell, man. I will just say if I were you, I would just flip on the old highlight DVD from the national championship run last year for Kansas and would feel much better. But yeah, losses in the tournament are brutal. An Elite Eight loss, brutal for myself to absorb, but I appreciate the kind words about Tang and company. And yeah, I mean, you know, what's funny about your comment about Utah is that how many times did we hear during the Texas-Oklahoma thing when they were first leaving, hey, Texas and Oklahoma have been subsidizing the Big 12 for years. You know, they subsidize the league, and you typically think of it in a monetary standpoint or a competitive standpoint, because as I've said, Oklahoma has been competitively subsidizing the league for a long time. But the Pac-12, it's like Cal and Stanford subsidize the rest of the league academically. I mean, I know that generally most of the academic rankings there for a lot of the schools are going to be better than what you find in the Big 12, but it really is, you're really hanging on to the elite of the elite institutions there in Cal and Stanford and projecting a lot because of that. They are doing the heavy lifting there, sort of in the same way. I would actually, what I really should compare it to is the SEC and on the field success, because you'll have like being a guy in Kansas City, the Mizzous of the world touting like SEC, look how strong this league is. What exactly have you been doing in it, Mizzou? What exactly have you been doing to hold this conference up? But they roar because Alabama, Georgia, and LSU, you know, keep that league so nationally relevant with what they're doing year in and year out. And the rest of the league just wants to hang on and claim that. I think it's a similar sort of vibe there with the Pac-12 and the academics. Yes, there are other good football programs in the SEC. Yes, they are generally a very good football conference. Yes, the Pac-12 is generally a pretty good academic conference. But there are a couple of behemoths there, and yes, everybody really wants to tag on it, especially like Utah. I mean, get the hell out of here. Like, come on. Yeah, this is, again, the whole thing that's been annoying about Utah. You are much more Truck Stopville, USA than you are Palo Alto. I have been to Palo Alto. That ain't Utah. I'm sorry. That ain't Salt Lake. Salt Lake City is not Palo Alto. So I agree with you, Alan. I agree with you. I saw someone pop up in here. I see Mike M says John Kurtz is a Big 12 homer. Yes, I would not dispute that. Like you're getting content from a Big 12 angle here, much like when you get it from John Canzano, you're getting it from a Pac-12 angle. When you get it from John Wilner, you're getting it from a Pac-12 angle. Generally, when you get it from Stuart Mandel, you're getting it from a Pac-12 angle. But the problem for you, Mike, is the centerpiece of today's discussion is an article that has Stuart Mandel's name on the byline, and it ain't very good for your league. Not very good for the Pac-12. So that's the problem. That's the problem for you right now. Nate, what's up, Nate? Nate Simons. Nate, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for your support. Nate says, will pro Pac-12 voices try to spin the fact that Endeavor now has the majority rights in the next WWE and UCF or UFC media deal as the Big 12 trying to throw grenades? I haven't seen much of that, but boy, you got my mind spinning now about, we're talking about storylines for George Kliavkov today on Gilmore Girls. What about like a story arc? Can we get a Big 12 WWE crossover? I mean, I'd appreciate that a lot more than UFC. I'll be honest with you. Like, UFC does absolutely nothing for me. Zero Zip Zilch could not be less interested. WWE, I don't really care about the actual wrestling parts, but like the the drama, the build-up, the cutting promos, like all that stuff. It is kind of entertaining. I don't go out of my way to watch a ton of it, but I have so many friends that have loved wrestling that have been around before that I've seen some of it by osmosis. That does entertain me. So if we could get Brett Yormark onto like SummerSlam or something, I'd be all for that. Let's get Brett Yormark. Let's get B Izzo out there on SummerSlam, and I guess younger, hipper, cooler for the Big 12 and WWE. I don't know if that is a perfect crossover there, but yeah, I mean, Endeavor is clearly a pretty big player here on the national scene, but I have not really seen much discussion about that from the Pac-12 side of things right now. Maybe I'm missing it, and feel free to let me know. I mean, you guys are always welcome to let me know if I am missing something. My Twitter DMs are open at JL Kurtz on Twitter, and try to take a peek there when people are getting in touch with me. So let me know. Let me know if I'm missing something on that front. R Web, what's up, R Web? Chiming in again. Appreciate you, my friend. R Web says Georgie plots against Brett for Karen's heart. Next on Gilmore Girls After Dark. Oh, of course that's it. I don't know why I didn't throw that out there. Yes, it would be Brett Yormark and George Kliavkoff vying for Karen's heart. But I mean, we already know who has Karen's heart. That would be Brett Yormark. And then the other problem is, like, do we want the Big 12 brand if we're trying to be younger, hipper, cooler? Are we trying to? I don't know that we need Brett Yormark on the CW. I definitely. It's a funny storyline there, R Web. I appreciate it, but I am concerned. We don't need the Big 12 brand being associated with the CW. Let's not do that. Let's keep it away. Let's keep it. No offense to Gilmore Girls, nothing against you, just not the target audience that we're trying to reach here. Keep it as far away from Gilmore Girls as possible. Okay, that's my only thing. That's my only thing. Cougar Tracks, what's up, Cougar Tracks? Cougar Tracks says, thank you for being a Big 12 homer, a conference worth promoting. Hey, yeah, well, the initial idea here, and again, yeah, back to the Big 12 homer comment, it was when I started doing this, when Texas and Oklahoma left in July 2021, there were not many Big 12 voices at all out there. It was like, I'm looking around and saying, nobody is being a Big 12 homer right now. It's all gloom and doom. Somebody needs to step up for the damn league. And look what's happened to the league. Big 12's doing all right, huh? Big 12's doing all right. We needed some of that. So proud to have played a small role in helping give the Big 12 more of a voice here. So, yes, appreciate you, Cougar Tracks. Appreciate you. Let's see. Okay, more of the bullet points from this article. And by the way, if you want to make your voice heard, click the $sign below the chat box where it says say something. That will ensure that your chat gets read on the show here tonight and help support the work I'm doing to bring you Big 12 content on a regular basis. Appreciate all of your support there. That is how you can do that. Also, if you guys would take a second to like the video right now, I'd appreciate that as well. Totally free. Another easy way to support the channel. You can hit me up on Venmo too, John-Kurtz-4. If you want to support that way, if you're catching this after the fact, and leave a comment under the video if you're catching this after the fact as well. Okay. From Stuart Mandel and Max Olson in The Athletic, it says, despite significant cost-cutting measures underway at parent company Disney, ESPN remains interested in Pac-12 rights, but not likely at a price the conference is seeking. That's not good. It's unclear whether the network would land a similar inventory to what it has now or a more narrow package, perhaps primarily in the 10:30 Eastern window. So this, again, is The Athletic. Mandel's name is on this story. Pac-12-centric guy. And it says, ESPN remains interested in Pac-12 rights, but not likely at a price the conference is seeking. So this story has said it's going to be weeks or months, not immediately, that a deal is getting done. The CW is a legitimate player involved, and ESPN remains interested, but not likely at a price the conference is seeking. This is not a good story for the Pac-12, and it is coming from a guy with a byline from Pac-12 country. There is a bullet point here about, and I think we've all kind of heard this, the supposed slowdown here could be due to these streamers, Apple and Amazon, not being as well versed in negotiating these types of deals. They don't have the experience that a Fox or an ESPN does, so it's going to take longer. We've heard the Sports Business Journal guys say persnickety is the word that they use for Apple in these sorts of discussions. So I think we're all kind of already aware of that. Here he touches on the mixed messaging. Kliavkoff himself has remained mostly quiet. Even the school's athletic directors are being kept in the dark, but the presidents have been regularly briefed, and some of their mixed messaging over the past several months has contributed to a sense of disarray within the conference. Let me just say that, like here, he's saying he is saying the presidents have been regularly briefed, and the presidents have been all over the map, and they can't get their story straight, and they're saying one thing one day and a different thing the next. That reflects what they're being told, right? They're speaking on what they are being told. Does that give you confidence in George Kliavkoff? He's already overpromised, thinking they were going to get 40 plus million per school, got everybody all riled up and on board with that. That clearly has not happened. Now it's, one day we're close, one day we're not. And the presidents are the ones that are actually getting some sort of information on this. That's all coming from the top, according to Mandel. Once again, according to Pac 12 guy who's bylines on this story, that's what's going on. It very disorganized, seems very disorganized, and that there is a lot going on and nothing consistent here. I just would have a hard time having a great amount of confidence in Kliavkoff based on everything that we've seen through the reporting here. So I think like cutting through the noise, those are it's just important context to know about these statements here that are being made in this article. But it points out Washington State President Kirk Schultz told the Mercury News John Wilner, my sense is we get it done in mid-March, hopefully. I'd forgotten about that quote. Oregon State's president expressed the same in an interview with John Canzano. Then came Arizona State's Crow and Arizona's Robbins, both making a deal sound imminent by late March. Well, it's April 9th, and now we're hearing weeks or months away. So that's the first level of receipts here. That's the first level of receipts. There's even a bullet point from the Athletic story that says, the person familiar with the discussions indicated there's a divide in the room between those like Schultz, eager to get a deal done as soon as possible to quiet the noise, and others like Randall, who's the Utah president, who are willing to be patient if it means getting a better deal. Quote, there's been a lot of comments from the media about how this is taking a long time, said Randall, but it's really that we started a year earlier than expected. I mean, the thing that I would say with this is like, okay, it makes sense that Utah is the school that would be willing to be more patient here because they're the school that does not want at all costs, they do not want to be in the same league as BYU. They do not want to do the Big 12 thing. They have clearly thumbed their nose at that. They do not want to be that they're winning in the Pac-12. So it's working for them right now. They can tout the Rose Bowl thing. All of that. Of course, Utah would want to be more patient here. But Arizona and Colorado are the schools that they really need to worry about. And Arizona and Colorado are in different positions here where they may well get antsy. So I would just say be careful what you wish for if you're Utah on that front. Because of your personal situation, you're more willing on the surface to wait it out. But can you trust Arizona or Colorado? And in the realignment game, it is really hard to trust anybody. It's like Tupac, man. Trust no one. It's really where you have to be at. So that would be the advice that I would caution them with. But who am I? I'm just a Big 12 homer on YouTube. All right, let's get to some more donations here. Provo Cougar fan chiming in says, burn, burn, burn. The Pac-12's on fire. The burning. And then we get a fire emoji. I would say, there are definitely some embers right now. There are definitely some embers, and it feels like a little more gasoline is getting poured on day by day, but there's still plenty of time to put it out. I mean, it's not a 5-alarm fire yet for the league, but it is not moving in the right direction. Not moving in the right direction. But Provo Cougar fan, thank you for your consistent support. Appreciate you always being here in the chats, and thank you for the comment there, and good use of an emoji. Solid emoji use there from Provo Cougar fan. I actually got I should give a shout out here to the, it was give 'em hell, Brigham Young. Do I have that right? Give 'em hell, Brigham. They sent me a t-shirt. And I literally just pulled it from my mailbox earlier today. I think it might've come earlier in the week, but just checked the mail like about an hour and a half ago. And I had that t-shirt. So thank you for that. Sincerely. Thank you. And let me know who I need to thank, in a more personal way for that. I will try to get that done. Rob S. What's up, Rob? Rob checking in again. Appreciate you, Rob. Rob says, Fox isn't paying full share to UCLA and USC to put them on after dark. Big Ten little guys are going to get squeezed off the best time slots. Same in the SEC. Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that. They're definitely going to work to get those big brands in as much as possible and as much as they want. That's an interesting part of the discussion. Like, what are the real life consequences eventually for the schools like that are in the bottom tier of the SEC and the Big Ten? In the SEC, you're your Vandies, I suppose, like your Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Missouri. What is going to happen to those schools and those brands? The Big Ten, I mean, boy, the Big Ten, you got plenty like Rutgers, Maryland, those schools at the bottom of the Big Ten that don't have much of a draw, like Indiana, when it comes to football, like Nebraska. I know Nebraska's got a little more brand value to them, but I had to throw them in there. Yeah, there will be some consequences there, and I'm not even saying I would not predict that conferences are going to start cutting anybody loose, at least not anytime soon. But yeah, there will be some more fallout there that we're not really talking about here. And even when that comes to like the Big 12, I mean, probably going to be some more games that are coming on Friday nights, some more games that are going to come on like not Saturdays, and that may continue to be the trend, and that will sort of suck. But for right now, we just know it's survival, and the Big 12 is doing a better job of surviving at the moment than the Pac-12 is. Chinese Spy Balloon. What's up, Chinese Spy Balloon? Thank you for being here. Chinese Spy Balloon says, having one loss to Bama football between Kleiman and Tang, with wins over Mizzou, Mississippi State, LSU, and Kentucky basketball. Methinks KSU belongs in the SEC. Yeah, well, look, I mean, the Alabama football game, not a whole lot of fun after that first quarter, but they belong for a minute. Basketball, I mean, no problem. I mean, we'll take on the SEC in hoops, no problem at all. And football, yeah, I mean, I guess, hey, like football, they've taken care of the middle to lower tier in the SEC, no problem. I mean, K-State could definitely be as competitive as those schools that you just mentioned. I guess the LSU thing, that was a depleted roster and all that. But yeah, hey, definitely would love to see it in hoops. I think they could go like this year. If you put this K-State team in the SEC this past year in basketball, probably walking out of there with second place finish to Alabama in the league. So yeah, I think they would be very, very viable there. Calico Willie, what's up, Calico? Calico says, howdy, John. Still early, but what is your projection on how schools finish in the Big 12 this football season? 14-1 and go. Oh boy, man. Calico, I love you, my dude, but I don't have enough to do that right now. I don't. And I just would not feel good. I wouldn't feel good about putting my name on anything right now with all of that. And I just don't love the prediction game like that anyway. Fool's errand. You're just setting yourself up to get dunked on, and people and I have not done the research on all that. I mean, I was reading, so I will admit I was reading like Ian Boyd. I think is he still with Inside Texas? I was reading he was going through like the schedules of everybody, and basically he came to the conclusion that Texas and Texas Tech were the only two real teams that had a real shot at the Big 12 championship because of the schedule draws, which, I mean, he makes a good point that the schedule is more important this year than it ever has been. And there's going to be a wide variance in teams getting a good draw and teams getting a bad draw when it comes to making the Big 12 championship game. But I don't know. I mean, I'd be more comfortable with giving you a tiers list, but I mean, I think Tech is going to compete for it. I think Texas will compete for it. I think K-State's probably like on the fringe there. It's hard to know what to make of like an Oklahoma State or a Baylor right now at this point in time. Yeah, I don't know. I apologize, Calico. I don't mean to duck it, but I don't feel confident in doing that. I try to be just like real open, honest, just real with you guys here. I just don't have enough right now. I have not dove in to all of that enough. But I can tell you, I very much believe in Texas Tech being competitive there. I do believe in Texas being competitive, although I would have my doubts that they actually break through and get it done, because we've just seen with Sark and whoever it's been in charge for a very long time now, decade and a half, that they're not going to climb all the way to that mountaintop. Like we've had the data to suggest and show that. They need to prove it to me. I'll put it that way. Texas definitely needs to prove it to me. Our web checking in with another plot line here. Our web says Georgie seeks media deal in the dark next on CW. That'd be a good episode if it were like an entire episode just in the dark. Our web with another one. The Pac media deal mystery next on Nancy Drew. Okay, I see you. That's good. That's good. Just Kleopkov like fumbling around in the dark for an entire episode. That'd be pretty funny, man. That'd be pretty funny. Um, okay, we're gonna start pulling receipts here. I told you we'd pull receipts. Um, we're gonna pull some receipts. John Wilner. I hate to do it to him because you guys get sick of hearing me say it. I'm sure. I respect Wilner. I think he's very good. Um, yes, you're getting a little bit of a Pac-12 angle here, but he's much more measured in how he utilizes these sources and frames the sources than Canzano, who's much more the Pac-12 cheerleader guy. But this is, let me start with the one from January. Okay, so January, he's talked for a long time about the 5.5 point line. He has put Pac-12 survival as a 5.5 point favorite. Started as a 5.5 point favorite anyway, and then it was slowly dwindling down. And at one point, he had said for every 2 weeks that they go by without a deal, it'll drop by another half point because you're just running the risk of something happening by not getting the deal ironed out and done. I found this just from January. He says, according to some hotline sources, confidence in Kleopkov is as strong as ever. With others, there's a growing concern that he hasn't acted with enough urgency. But he says, we suspect that Kleopkov will take an offer to the presidents for approval in the next 4 to 6 weeks. However, if the Ides of March arrive without a deal on the table, the survival odds will plunge. Well, it is April 9th, folks. And according to what Wilner wrote in his latest mailbag, I would not say that the survival odds have plunged. They have gone down. They have not plunged. So here's what he says as of his most recent mailbag. Says the hotline's odds for Pac-12 survival have been trimmed to 3.5 points and will remain there until we see substantive reason for a change. So going back, I mean, he is going back on what he has said before. Now, in fairness to him, based on what we're saying, the Pac-12 presidents can't get their story straight, and they're the ones sitting in the meetings with Kleopkov about all of this. So it is tough to blame Wilner and even Canzano, I suppose, a ton for that when they're even the presidents can't keep on the same page because Kleopkov can't get anybody on the same page here. But it is definitely, these guys they're backtracking. I mean, they're definitely backtracking here. Instead of plunging, he's dropped them a bit, but not plunged them, and we're here in April. He says survival is the most likely scenario, but not a given and subject to risk factors. We view Arizona and Colorado as the schools most likely to get anxious. Arizona President Robert Robbins' public comments that he's willing to wait and let the process play out was factored into the line being set at 3.5 points and not lower. That's all fair. That's all well and good, and that's fine. I would caution everybody again, like, it's realignment, man. Is all is fair in love, war, and realignment. I just would not trust people, despite what they may be saying publicly. I would not trust them fully. I guess you can put some stock into it, but I would not trust them fully. So anyway, there was the one receipt that I really had to pull on John Wilner there. But if you want the ultimate in receipts, you definitely need to go check out the piece that Derek Duke wrote on Heartland College Sports. I mean, there are some tweets, I tell you what. So obviously, the news is weeks to months on the Pac-12 media deal. We're getting that from Pac-12 sources. We're getting that from ESPN. We're getting that from The Athletic. Going to be a while. When for a while it was March. Well, I mean, it was before that. But then recently it had been need to get it done by March, mid-March. Presidents have been talking mid-March, and we're here on April 9th, and nothing is done. This is probably the most damning, and I even tagged Old Takes Exposed on this one for Canzano. Canzano on August 31st of 2022 tweeted, Fox and ESPN are entering early discussions with the Big 12 about its next TV deal per ESPN. Pac-12 went early to its exclusive negotiating window. Big 12 has now followed. Not sure why it took so long. Call them coming. So he's taking a shot at the Big 12 for waiting too long to open the exclusive negotiating window after the Pac-12. This was back in August. And remember, that was a story at the time. The Pac-12 had opted to jump into that negotiating window. But to make fun of the Big 12 for being late to the party on this whole deal, and then the Big 12 jumps in front, gets the deal done, and we're sitting here April, May, June, July, August. We're sitting here 8 months later, and the Pac-12 still does not have a deal, and we're talking about being weeks or months away when the Big 12 has had their deal done now for months. That is about the ultimate receipt here. Some snark thrown the Big 12's way for being too late to the punch. Now, in light of what has happened to the Pac-12, that is not good. That is not good tweeting. Not good tweeting there, Mr. Canzano. We have others here. This is a tweet that says, delusion aside, the Big 12 has nothing on the Pac-12. Said one current Pac-12 AD, I don't know where all this Big 12 is better stuff is coming from. You wouldn't trade our troubles for theirs. That was from July 25th of 2022. In July, the Pac-12 said, you wouldn't trade our troubles for theirs. How many, if you give truth serum to all those presidents, all those athletic directors sitting in those rooms right now for the Pac-12, how many of them would just trade their situation for the Big 12s right now if given the chance? Every single damn one of them. Every single one of them. We have one from August 29th, Pac-12 expansion scenarios getting real. There was also, he's teasing that he's addressing, what about poaching the Big 12? I mean, not good. July and August, man. The Pac-12 apparently was on one in July and August. October 21st, 2022, the Pac-12 not buying what the Big 12 is selling. March 22nd, 2023, Pac-12 CEO group meeting today for those interested. And then, of course, there's this one. And thank you to Derek for bringing this back up. We had the Pac-12 unity statement on February 13th. So we're almost 2 full months away from this. And on February 13th, the Pac-12 said, the 10 Pac-12 universities look forward to consummating successful media rights deals in the very near future. Very near future. That was 2 months ago, and now we're talking about being weeks or months away. Whoops. So much for that very near future. And this, again, is where I come back to, does not seem like Kliavkov has been in control and done a very good job with this, because that is a statement being released by the conference where they clearly felt like they were fairly close. That was now 2 months ago, and it may be 4, 5, 6 months later by the time something actually gets done here. Poor job of handling the message, the PR on this whole thing. And that statement, it's not like that statement was lauded at the time either. People kind of took it as like the dreaded AD vote of confidence. Like, what? The only reason you would be doing this is if you're actually worried about where things are at. And now it looks even more ridiculous in hindsight. So look, there are receipts everywhere. The real point in this, I mean, yes, do we have some fun coming back around and looking at these things and poking? Yes, we do. But I just continue to emphasize my biggest gripe with the whole process has been a lack of admission on the Pac-12 side that what you are getting from those voices is just regurgitated information. Well, not regurgitated. What you are getting is like, that is the information that the Pac-12 wants out there. And it is essentially state-run media. You are taking, yes, Canzano can cry until the cows come home about how all the sources in the Pac-12 he has. I don't doubt that he has them. But clearly, when even the presidents are screwing this thing up, like, if you're just getting Pac-12 voices, that is not an accurate portrayal of what's going on. And it's been proven time and time again throughout this process. So a lack of admission, that just self-awareness that, like, hey, this is what the Pac-12 wants out there, doesn't mean that it is the accurate scope of what's going on. And there is such a, especially from Canzano, such a sense of like journalistic superiority here and looking down on anybody that would dare question it. And all you got to do is just tweet him a list of these things and be like, look, man, you're being played a little bit here by the Pac-12 folks. And just admit that what you're doing is you are well sourced within the Pac-12. And you are giving the Pac-12 side of things. You are giving the Pac-12 view. Just like I will openly say here, I'm giving you the Big 12 side of things. I'm giving you the Big 12 view. And it's just this aura of superiority that I'm not doing that. When in reality, that is exactly what you are doing. That has been my biggest frustration the whole time. And that is the actual utility here of pulling the receipts outside of the obvious of just having a little bit of fun with it. So anyway, let's round out with some donations here and wrap up the live show tonight. I appreciate all of you guys who have been here. Calico Willie says, John, no worries. Tears is good too. I'm just in a lull because my favorite sports are over till September. Ema, and keep doing what you do, bud. Calico, I appreciate you, my man. Really appreciate you being here and offering your support every single show. You know what? Let's bring up a little quick tiers thing here. Or well, I'm going to bring up the Big 12 standing just so I can look through here and see what my tiers would be. TCU's an interesting one. I guess like tier one, Texas Tech, TCU, K State. Does that sound good for like a top tier in the Big 12? Texas Tech, TCU, K State. Maybe Oklahoma sneaking into there, but then I don't know. You're looking at like a second tier of like Oklahoma, Baylor, Oklahoma State, and I'm forgetting the new schools and all of this. Oklahoma, Baylor, Oklahoma State. That is one I definitely don't know the rosters well enough of the incoming schools right now to be able to give you an accurate portrayal there. But I hope that will suffice. That is my off the cuff. Don't get mad at me because I literally was just as off the cuff as I can be throwing those out there. But I appreciate my guy Calico, and I wanted to give him a little bit of something there. Hiking Cat, what's up, Hiking Cat? Hiking Cat says maybe the Pac-12 should start on OnlyFans. Here you can make good money on there. Yeah, some people do. I think some people do on the OnlyFans. And those of you who are asking about the CW earlier, if you're having to ask about OnlyFans, I would say just Google it, but only if you're just make sure that's not a work computer. If you're Googling it, but you can Google OnlyFans to figure that one out. Just again, not on the work computer, not safe for work, but that's good. Hiking Cat. That's good. I guess, yeah, you can post content up there, right? So you could just have a game and then post the replay of the game up there on the OnlyFans. And I don't think all of it's explicit. I feel like there's a part of OnlyFans that's maybe not. I don't know. Grandan, what's up, Grandan? Appreciate you being here. Grandan says, if the proportional benefit could remain the same financially, would you want the Big 12 to expand to 16 like the SEC and Big 10? All right, so you're saying like basically you're not going to lose money on that. Would I want them to expand? If it's just such a hard hypothetical, because I think I guess the advantage to it would be giving yourself some buffer. If you were to have a team or two plucked at one point, you would have strength in numbers a little bit more there. But I just don't want to. I don't want to water down product. I don't think it's a realistic scenario where there would be any world in which this would really work. So I'm thinking too much within the confines of like what reality is with it as opposed to the scenario you're laying out there. I'll put it like this. I think really what you're getting at here, like I don't have some big affinity on expansion just for expansion's sake. Also, like what schools am I getting here? If it's the four corner schools, then like, okay, yeah, maybe I can like get on board with more of that. But if it's, if we're going the Canzano fantasy route and adding like Fresno State and Boise, like, again, nothing against those schools, but no, I would not want that. Even if somehow in this dream scenario, the money would still be the same. I don't think you need that. I definitely don't think you need that. So now if the expansion is like expanding to 16, if you're technically including like basketball only schools, once again, that's a different scenario, but, that's probably like a way more nuanced answer than you wanted. So I apologize for that, but that's just where my head's at on that reading it. I'm not a big like just expand to get bigger and get more numbers. I don't really care so much about that. I want it to be a good league. I want it to be fun, entertaining. I don't want anything like dragging down at the bottom. That I think is the best case for the league here moving forward. Robert, what's up, Robert? Robert says, in your mind, what is the Rubicon date for Arizona and Colorado for a media rights deal before they decide to jump ship? Given Wilner's comments that you read, just, I hate to cop out again, but it's an impossible answer. I think it just depends on so many things and how discussions continue to develop and how much confidence there actually is in Kliavkov in the room. I think some of that will be dictated by what kind of messages are they getting from George Kliavkov over the next couple of weeks and months. Are they seeing the same things that I pick up on here with the patterns? And I say I pick up on. I'm not in the rooms. I don't really know what's going on, but my my intuition, like what I read, what I piece together from all this seems to be that they're getting mixed messages from Cleo Cop. If stuff like that continues, if there's more of the overpromise, underdeliver, 40 million per school, but no, really now it's just a race to try and get to 31.6 to see if we can. If there are more things like that happening and you're losing confidence in the leadership, like I think that matters more than just a specific date. It's just an overall very complex calculation for all of these schools. It's not really based on like one thing and one hard and fast. Here's what it is. So I would just say that answer. You can't really answer it that way because I think it depends on what they are feeling about their leadership and what it actually is. And maybe, I don't know, what kind of a job is Brett Yormark doing trying to negotiate on the other side? What kind of messages is he giving? How can that sway them as time goes on? And do those messages start to resonate a little bit more the more this plays out, the more things go on? So I think that's really the best way I can answer it. I think it's just all contingent on like how Cleo Cobb handles this, what they're feeling in terms of actual progress, what they're being told about progress on the deal, and all of those sorts of things. Just lost my last one here. Cat fan in Huskerland, aka Daniel Osborne. Always appreciate you being here, Daniel. Thank you, my friend, for your support. Really do truly appreciate it. Daniel says, just driving home from Omaha, laughing at the Pac-12's mystery media deal. I need a laugh after the Storm Chasers 8-2 lost at Toledo today. Great show as always, John. Well, my condolences to the Storm Chasers, and good on you for getting out to Omaha today. I assume it was a beautiful day in Omaha. It was a beautiful day in Kansas City. I can tell you that here today. And what better way to spend your Easter Sunday than taking in a little bit of baseball there? So glad that we could help brighten your day with the show here, Daniel. And shout out to everybody else, man. You guys brought it strong tonight. So Daniel, don't just thank me. Thank everybody else who's been here in the chat, offering some good laughs, some good insight here, giving us good questions. Have really enjoyed it here tonight. And I truly do hope that has made your day a little bit brighter, Daniel. So thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. I appreciate all of you guys in the chat. Busy one, fun one. I am going to try to get an interview lined up here in this next week. Cross your fingers that comes to fruition. We'll see about a midweek show. Going to depend on what the news cycle is. It's probably going to be a little bit more here. I'm trying to take at least just like a teeny tiny step back in the off season from football, basketball going on here. So if there aren't like a ton of real juicy nuggets coming at you in the next couple of days, may back off the midweek live show, but I will definitely be keeping the Sundays as consistent as possible. And you know what? Like I got here right on time, baby. 7:30 tonight. 7:30 happened. I proved that I can do it. So let's all hope that continues, right? One last time here, make sure you like the video, make sure you comment. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. Make sure you click the bell for updates to know when I'm going live, know when I'm dropping content. If you want conference realignment, college football, college hoops from a Big 12 slant, that's what you're going to get here on this channel each and every week. Spread the word, friends, family, word of mouth, social media, whoever it is that you think is a Big 12 fan or would enjoy what is on this channel, please let them know about it, and let's continue to grow this community, which has been growing like crazy, and love all you guys in the community that we have built here on this channel. You can follow me on Twitter at JLKurtz. DMs are open there if you have something for me. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you want to support the channel that way. Comment on the video, like the video, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening, everybody. Thank you for being here, and I will talk to you all soon.